You drank milk this week, poured a glass, didn't even think about it. Completely normal. But you just did something almost nothing else alive does. Every other mammal drinks milk once, as a baby, then stops for good. A wolf pup weans in a few weeks. A lion cub, the same. Even a whale, the biggest predator in the ocean, leaves milk behind and never goes back to it. You never did. And 2 out of 3 people on this planet can't do what you just did. Not without their body turning on them. You can. They can't. Something happened to your ancestors that never happened to theirs, and you're still running on it today. Rewind about 10,000 years. Picture one of your ancestors standing next to an animal that just gave birth, and he does something no creature had ever really done on purpose. He takes the milk meant for the baby, and he drinks it himself. For almost everyone alive back then, that was a bad idea. Cramps, nausea, a stomach that spent the next few hours in open revolt. Because his body, like nearly every human body before it, had switched milk off years earlier. There's an enzyme called a lactase. Its whole job is to break down the sugar in milk so your body can actually use it. Every baby is born making plenty of it. And in almost every mammal that has ever existed, the gene that makes it quietly shuts down. After weaning, you're a kid, you stop drinking milk. Your body stops wasting energy on a tool it thinks you'll never need again. Done. That's not a defect. That's the default. That's what your body was built to do to you. But in a few small pockets of people, something copied wrong. One tiny letter in the DNA changed. And that mistake did something oddly specific. It jammed the switch in the on position. The lactase never turned off. Those people could drink milk at 10, at 30, at 60, and feel nothing. You are almost certainly one of them. And that's stranger than it sounds. Right now, roughly 2 out of every 3 adults on Earth still run the original code. They drink a big glass of milk, and their body can't fully break it down. Bloating, cramps, the whole thing. For most of the human species, that is simply what milk does to a grown-up. We have a name for it, lactose intolerant. Which makes it sound like the rare case, like something went wrong with them. It's backwards. They're the normal ones. You're the adet. And this isn't ancient history that stopped mattering. It's running in you right now. Somewhere in your gut, at this exact second, there's an enzyme switched on that was supposed to go dark before you could tie your own shoes. It stayed on because of a mutation you inherited from people who lived and died thousands of years before anyone wrote a single word down. You didn't earn that. You didn't choose it. You woke up one day already holding it. So who were they? And what happened to them that was strong enough to rewrite the human body this recently? Hold that question. Because there's a second one hiding underneath it, and the milk in your fridge is quietly answering it. Go look at your fridge again. That carton almost certainly came from a cow, not a goat, not a sheep, not a camel, a cow. You never picked that. Nobody sat you down and walked you through the options. It was just there, the day you were born. The same way it was there for your parents and theirs. But humans have milked at least 8 different animals across history. And if you actually line them up side by side, cow milk doesn't win most of the categories. It isn't the richest. It isn't the easiest to digest. It isn't the closest to what a human body actually wants. So why did it end up in nearly every fridge on the planet? Not because it was best, because it scaled. A single dairy cow can pump out 6 or 7 gallons a day. A goat gives you less than 1, a sheep less than that. When your ancestors were betting an entire food supply on one animal, that gap decided everything. Cows also handled crowds, tolerated more climates, didn't need babying the way smaller animals do. So the whole world slowly organized itself around the animal that produced the most, not the animal that produced the best. The milk in your glass never won a taste test. It won a numbers game, thousands of years ago. And you inherited the result without ever seeing what lost. Here's what lost. Start with goat milk. Its fat breaks into smaller pieces than cow milk, which makes it easier on a lot of stomachs, including some people who can't handle cow milk at all. After cow, it's the most drunk milk on Earth, mostly because goats survive on rough, dry ground where a cow would starve. you've probably still never had a glass. Sheep milk is almost the heavyweight of the whole group. Close to double the fat and protein of cow milk, more calcium, more of certain vitamins. That's why it turns into those dense, rich cheeses. More nutrition packed into every single drop. Most people have never tasted it once. Buffalo milk goes further still. Thicker, creamier, even higher in fat. In big parts of South Asia, it isn't the backup option, it's the main one. Real mozzarella comes from it, not from a cow. Then it gets stranger. Camel milk is a daily staple across deserts where a cow would drop dead by noon. Lower in the exact sugar that wrecks 2/3 of humanity. Higher in vitamin C, and it carries proteins that behave a little like insulin. And the strangest of all, horse and donkey milk are the closest of any animal milk on Earth to human breast milk. Lower fat, gentler proteins, easier on a human gut than the cow milk you grew up on. In parts of old Europe, when a mother couldn't nurse, they fed the baby donkey milk instead of anything from a cow. So sit with that for a second. The milk built closest to what a human baby actually needs, most people on Earth have never even seen. And the one flooding every shelf in your country is the one that happened to be easiest to mass produce. You've been drinking the winner of an ancient logistics problem, not the winner of anything about your body. Now, there's one version of this that people swear brings you back to the natural way. Raw milk, straight from the animal, unpasteurized, untouched. The pitch is that this is how humans drank dairy for thousands of years before machines got involved, and that heating it strips out the good stuff. And they're not completely wrong. Pasteurization does knock out some enzymes and nudge a few proteins around. That part is real, but here's what the pitch leaves out. Pasteurization wasn't invented to annoy anyone. It was invented because raw milk was making people seriously, sometimes fatally, sick. Raw milk can carry the kind of bacteria that put people in a hospital bed, and health agencies have tied it to a wildly outsized share of dairy illness compared to how few people actually drink it. So you're not choosing between natural and unnatural. You're trading a small nutrient bump for a real shot at getting genuinely sick. It might be a little better on paper. It is measurably more dangerous in your body. Which is the same trap the whole story keeps setting. The thing that feels the most natural, the most ancestral, is not automatically the thing your body is safest with. Your ancestors didn't drink raw milk because it was ideal. They drank it because there was no other option, and plenty of them paid for it. Think about a lion for a second. Apex predator, top of the entire food chain. It nurses as a cub for a few months, and then it is done with milk forever, never touches it again. Not once for the rest of its life. A wolf, the same. An orca, the deadliest hunter in the ocean, weans and walks away from milk for good. Every predator you can name treats milk as a baby thing. A phase. Something you grow out of and never look back at. Their bodies shut the door and lock it, exactly the way yours was supposed to. And you? You went to the fridge this week and poured yourself a tall glass of the one thing every hunter on the planet abandons at birth. There's a part of you still running on that same old wiring. The prey instincts, the survival reflexes, the deep code you never think about. Almost all of it says the same thing every other mammal's body says. Milk is over. You're an adult now. You don't get to keep drinking the baby's food. One tiny mutation overruled the entire thing. And it's the reason you can do something a lion physically cannot. But nobody rewrites the human body for fun. A change that big, spreading that fast, means something was pushing hard. This is where it stops being a fun fact and starts being about survival. Here's what actually happened, as far as we can tell. When those first groups started keeping animals, they weren't drinking milk for the taste. They were drinking it because they were desperate. A bad harvest, a brutal winter, a famine that emptied the storehouses down to nothing. When the crops failed, the milk didn't. The animal kept producing, even when the fields gave up completely. So picture a starving group. The person who could drink that milk without getting violently sick had food. The person who couldn't, didn't. In a good year, that difference is nothing. A bit of stomachache versus none. In a famine, that difference is everything. One person eats, the other one doesn't. Now, run that across enough hungry generations, and the math turns brutal. The people who couldn't digest milk were more likely to die before they ever had children. The people who could lived and handed the switch down to the next ones. Not because they were stronger, not because they were smarter. Only because when everything else ran out, they had one last thing they could keep down. That's not a cute genetic quirk, that's a filter. And the glass of milk in your hand is a receipt from that filter. You can drink it because your specific ancestors were the ones who survived the years when drinking it was the only thing standing between them and starving to death. And here's the part that should really land. It happened more than once. Separately. Different mutations in different corners of the world, arriving at the exact same answer, which tells you how badly it was needed. Evolution doesn't stumble onto the same fix twice by accident. It does that when the pressure never lets up. 2 out of 3 people never inherited any of it. Their ancestors either never kept dairy animals or never got squeezed hard enough for it to matter. Yours did. That one small fact, whether or not you can drink a glass of milk, is a quiet little map of what your bloodline lived through. Why don't you drink any other animal's milk? The honest answer is you do drink one, and it isn't the healthiest. It's the one that scaled. But underneath that, there was never a single winner to begin with. Sheep milk wins on raw nutrition. Camel milk wins on those strange, useful compounds. Donkey milk wins on being closest to human. The healthiest milk for you, personally, is probably the one your own ancestors spent thousands of years adapting to. Not the one that happened to conquer global farming. The people who herded cattle got tuned for cow milk. The people who herded camels got tuned for something completely different. Your body was never built for the best milk in the abstract. It was built for the milk that kept your specific line alive. And there's one more twist, sitting right in the modern aisle. Plant milk. Almond, oat, soy, coconut. None of it is milk in any real sense. An almond doesn't nurse anything. No animal made it for its young. It's water blended with plants to fake the texture. And it exploded in popularity for one blunt reason. Most of the world is lactose intolerant by default. So a plant version quietly skips the whole problem. But here's the strange part nobody says out loud. For a fully grown adult human, drinking oat or soy milk might actually be more evolutionarily normal than drinking cow milk. Because neither one asks your body to run a rare genetic mutation just to avoid pain. Your gut was never designed for any of them, sure, but at least they don't lean on a switch that was only supposed to stay on in a fraction of the human race. The weird milk on the shelf might be the honest one, and the normal one is the anomaly wearing a normal costume. You poured a glass this week without a single thought. Just milk, just normal. But normal is the trick. Normal is the story your body stopped telling you a long, long time ago. That glass isn't a drink. It's a scar from a famine you'll never know the name of. It's proof that somewhere back in the dark, your ancestors were starving, and the ones who could stomach milk are the reason you exist to pour it at all. 2 out of 3 people on this planet can't do what you just did. And somewhere, right now, one of them is drinking milk from an animal you've never once considered. Milk that fits their body better than yours fits you, carrying their own version of the exact same story. You never got the memo. You just drank the milk. And now you know what was in the glass the whole time.